This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from Aotearoa's first and only climate-positive certified renewable electricity provider. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to electric vehicles in Aotearoa. Search today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup of news from the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks for joining me. We start today's show with the seemingly inevitable demise of the US-based hydrogen fuel cell and battery electric company Nikola Motor, which filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection on Tuesday. The company says it has $47 million in cash, but in keeping with warnings it filed with the US Securities and Exchanges Commission in December, it doesn't have the money it needs to keep things running. Aside from the financial impropriety of its founder, who is still trying to appeal his fraud convictions, Nikola lost more than $200 million last quarter. Failing to bring its hydrogen fuel cell truck to market on time, it also suffered a major blow in 2023 when it was forced to issue a stop sale and recall of all of its battery-powered big rigs after a fire at its production facility. The company has about 1 month to find a buyer, or it will close operations completely. Rivian posted its fourth quarter and year-end financials for 2024 at the close of business on Thursday, and for the first time in its history, recorded a gross automotive profit. As usual, figures quoted are in US dollars. Posting fourth quarter revenue of $9.73 billion, higher than the $1.4 billion Wall Street expected, Rivian ended the year on a strong note, posting a $170 million, 10% gross profit, meaning it made more money on its vehicles than it spent making them. However, on a year-by-year basis, it ended the year with a negative automotive gross profit. Looking forward, Rivian says it expects lower total sales this year, caused in part by governmental policy changes and regulations. It aims for a modest gross profit this year. While we didn't start today's show with a story from the ongoing political crisis in the US, I'm afraid I'm bringing you one now, courtesy of a threatened 25% tariff on all imported vehicles. The US president, who, whether in jest or in seriousness, declared himself king this week and signed an executive order stating only he and his attorney general are allowed to decide what's legal and what's not, announced that he will likely announce new import tariffs on cars entering the US on April 2nd. He's not said what they will be, but has hinted that they will be likely around 25%. This would, of course, include all EVs, regardless of where they were made, and could include vehicles made in factories in Mexico and Canada, where many US automakers operate facilities. If enacted, it will, without a doubt, affect the entire global auto industry, and EVs will likely be hit hard and early. In Europe, though, things are looking a lot rosier for EVs, at least personal EVs, as new data suggests the EU is on track to meet its EV charging station deployment targets. While there's some noticeable variance between different member states, new data from an interim assessment of charging stations in Europe shows that, at the end of 2024, there were more than 845,000 EV charging points, inclusive of all power levels, across Europe, with more than 15,000 of those now ultra-fast chargers capable of 350 kilowatt fast charging. While things are looking great for light-duty vehicles, though, the report notes that the deployment of fast charging stations for trucks is falling behind, with 13,500 electric trucks now registered in the region, and some trucks capable of CCS charging. The report notes most public charging sites just aren't suitable for large tractor-trailer units. The EU has set aside €2 billion to establish at least 20,000 truck-compatible charging stations by the end of 2030. As BMW prepares to bring its first new class electric vehicles to market, it's been busy teasing the technology at the heart of that platform. This week, the firm showcased its new Heart of Joy ECU system that lays at the heart of Neue Klasse. Designed entirely in-house at the firm, Heart of Joy combines drivetrain and driving dynamic computer controls into a single unit, dramatically reducing complexity within the vehicle's system and improving response times. BMW says it's 10 times quicker than its previous vehicle control system, has millisecond latencies, and as a consequence will result in improved driving pleasure and improved energy efficiency. How much? Well, BMW says its energy efficiency is up to 25% better using Heart of Joy when compared to its old control systems, and that could dramatically improve vehicle range. I can't wait to try it. As we head towards Kia's second annual EV Day next week, we're seeing more teasers drop from the company as it prepares to showcase its next new vehicles. This week, it unveiled the design of its Kia EV4 for the first time in two different guises, a sedan and a hatchback. While we still don't know the specifications, we'll find that out soon, the vehicle is designed to go after the Model 3 in the marketplace and features everything you'd expect from a new Kia EV, complete with sleek, aerodynamic lines. The sedan variant does remind me a little of the Lightyear 1 at the rear, complete with a long, sloped tail that I assume will give it far better energy efficiency than its hatchback sibling, which looks much more like a direct competitor to the Volkswagen ID.4. We'll find out more about both at the EV Day next week. As we've noted before, the new US administration, spearheaded by self-appointed King Donald, is working hard to end all current and future green transport and energy programs. We've covered the sudden cancellation of funds in previous videos, but this week we learned that US automakers, including Ford, GM and others, are working hard to lobby both the White House and congressional lawmakers in an attempt to at least keep some EV tax credits in place, arguing that an immediate cessation of tax credits combined with tariffs would cripple the auto industry in the US. Automakers are asking for the White House to consider a gradual sunset of the program in place of an immediate withdrawal. This would, they say, allow the industry more time to reduce costs and avoid price hikes for consumers. While the White House continues its war on cleaner transportation and energy, it looks as if consumers are not buying the hype, with new data suggesting EV interest is still rising. A new survey published by CDK Global this week showed that during 2024, a full 31% of gasoline car owners looking to buy a new car said they plan to buy an EV as their next vehicle. That's up from the 18% of folks in 2023 who said the same thing. Interest in EVs from hybrid buyers was even higher, with 54% of hybrid owners questioned saying they'd go electric for their next car, up from 38% in the previous year. While the report did generally only have good things about the progress in EV attitudes to say, even acknowledging that charging was better than in previous years, it notes that the majority of shoppers still thought EV maintenance costs were higher than with other vehicle types, something that's demonstrably not true. Sticking with the growth in the EV market in the face of kakistocracy, JD Power released its newest market predictions for 2025, showing it believes EV sales will still rise in the US despite everything. Last year, there was a 58% increase in franchised EV sales. That's EVs sold through traditional franchise dealerships, which helped offset the drop in sales from direct-to-customer brands. All in all, by volume, EV sales in the US rose by about 7% in 2024. This year, JD Power predicts that the overall automotive market will rise by about 3%, and that EV sales will rise by a similar figure. This will result in more EV sales year over year by volume, but likely no change in overall EV market share as a percentage. It's not the growth that many of us would like, but it is growth. Given the dramatic drop in sales in some US markets of a certain US automaker whose CEO is not all that popular right now, it's a prediction that could be a whole lot worse given everything happening. If you've been around in the EV world for a while, you might know about the Toyota RAV4 EV, the small, eminently practical CUV that Toyota made at the turn of the century. You probably know about its limited production run, limited availability, and the fact that most but not all were lease-only rather than outright purchased, resulting in the destruction of the majority of RAV4 EVs after automakers successfully lobbied to end California's ZEV mandate. You might also know I used to own one, as did Kate Bolton-Elliott. And you might know about the second-generation compliance car Toyota RAV4 EV, which again was a cracking vehicle, that used Tesla-engineered drivetrains. With Toyota reluctant to support either vehicle today and Toyota favouring hybrid and hydrogen fuel cell, we would expect that there would never be another RAV4 EV. But this week, we heard a rumour via Electrek that suggests that might just happen. Citing internal documents from Toyota, it claims that an electric RAV4 is in development, which, given the RAV4's popularity, might help Toyota turn its EV sales around. It's just an unconfirmed rumour right now, but it's one that has me intrigued. Before we get to the last two stories, I have a quick question. Are you in the market for a new EV? Because if you are, and you live in Aotearoa, you should totally check out our very own buyer's guide at ecotricity.co.nz. It's packed with all the information you need to pick a car that's right for you and includes plenty of details about available vehicles, daily life with an EV, how to file and pay those nasty IUCs, and so much more. So follow the link below and get your journey started today. And now it's time for those last two stories. There's a bit of a trend that we're starting to see in the EV world of late, in which regular models are given an off-road vibe. There's the Hyundai Ioniq 5 XRT, there's the Ford Mustang Mach-E Rally, and as we detailed in last week's show, the Volvo EX Cross Country. This week, Rivian jumped into the game with a special edition, but given that Rivian's vehicles are already very off-road capable, I know I've driven a real off-road trail in one, it went for styling instead. Enter the Rivian California Dune Edition. Take a regular tri-motor Rivian R1T or R1S, add a special interior and give it a new exclusive paint job. It's worth noting that the interior is based on Rivian's Adventure trim rather than the less robust, more luxurious Ascend trim that's normally found in tri-motor Rivians. Oh, and you get some new snazzy wheels that I adore because they're designed to look like old-school Steelies, even though they're not. And no, just because it's the Dune edition, you don't get any free spice with it. Sorry. And finally, I don't know about you, but I think modern cars are just too darn large. And while I'm sure the comment section will be brimming with folks that are angry that we've not covered the new swashbuckling crash test results showing that large trucks can be safe, I still think smaller is better, which is where Asnom Automotive comes in and its new Smart ForTwo. Taking the original Smart ForTwo, this Italian-based company carries out a full restomod, adding a battery pack, motor, and even DC quick charging, resulting in a round-town runabout with around 80 miles of range per charge. There are two variants available, one that's built to comply with L6E Quadricycle regulations, meaning it can be driven from the age of 14 in some countries with a restricted license, or a full-speed L7E, or heavy quadricycle, for full license holders. I love it not only because it's repurposing an icon and keeping a car out of a junkyard, but it's also bringing mobility to more people. Sadly, I don't have the price on hand, but I don't expect it to be cheap. But I think it's still preferable to the alternative vehicle I mentioned at the start of this story. Just saying. And on that note, we are done for the day. Before I go though, make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in EV news from this channel. And of course, if you haven't switched yet, it's time to switch to Aotearoa's first and only climate positive certified renewable electricity provider. It is super easy to make the switch, and in doing so, you'll help the nation wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean, green power that will keep the land beautiful for future generations. I'll be back next week, but in the meantime, do check out the lovely content from Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge right on this channel. He's been travelling to gold places. I'm sure you'll find out more about it soon, but it's definitely well worth a look, so do hit subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. Ka kite! See you next time.